He clutched his side like someone had stabbed him. Middle of the night, no warning, just pain, hot, sharp, like fire under his ribs. His wife thought it was a heart attack. He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. By the time the ambulance came, he was curled on the floor, drenched in sweat. At the hospital, they rushed him in, hooked him up, ran the scans, and then the doctor looked at him and said words he didn't expect. "It's your gallbladder." Wait, what? Not the heart? Not a stroke? Gallbladder? He'd barely even thought about it. That small, greenish organ tucked behind the liver. Turns out it had been screaming for help for years. He just didn't know how to listen. Here's the thing. Gallbladder attacks don't start with pain. They start quietly. A little pressure after meals, bloating, gas, maybe a greasy burger that just didn't sit right. But then one day, boom, the bile backs up, stones form, and your own digestive system turns against you. You think it's age? You think it's just indigestion? But you're standing on a trap door, and you don't even see the rope. Let me tell you something else. Every single day, people over 50 end up in the ER. Not because their gallbladder suddenly broke, but because it's been screaming for years, and nobody told them what to eat to help it, because no one talks about bile, not on the news, not on your prescriptions, not even at your annual checkup. But bile is vital. It's the oil in your engine. The reason fats get digested, the reason your liver doesn't choke on toxins. And when it stops flowing, when it gets thick or stuck or clogged, you feel tired, heavy, foggy in the head, and sometimes you end up on a hospital bed with a tube down your throat and a surgeon saying, "We need to take it out." But what if you didn't have to go that far? What if right now you could do one simple thing that keeps bile moving, that protects your gallbladder and makes your body feel light, clear, calm again? You can. It starts with food, not pills, not surgery. Food, but not just any food. Some foods block bile like concrete. Others, they unlock it, like turning on a faucet. And in the next few minutes, you're going to know exactly what they are. But first, let me tell you about someone. Someone just like you. He didn't believe any of this, until one morning he woke up and couldn't even stand. Not because of his age, not because of bad luck, because of one forgotten organ and the plate he filled every single day. His name is Richard, 68, retired truck mechanic, lived in Ohio his whole life, big hands, thick voice, always the first to help a neighbor clear snow from the driveway. Didn't smoke, drank a little beer on Sundays, loved ribs, fried eggs, sausage gravy, the works. For most of his life, Richard felt solid, strong, dependable. Yeah, he had some acid reflux here and there. Sometimes he'd feel bloated after dinner. But hey, just getting older, he'd say, until the day it wasn't just bloating. He was in the garage, tightening a bolt on his old '79 Chevy, and out of nowhere, wham! Pain, right under his ribs. It knocked the wrench out of his hand. He had to sit down on the cold concrete floor. It passed, kinda, but that night, after dinner, same thing. Worse. 3 days later, Richard ended up in urgent care, blood tests, ultrasound, and the doctor came in with a quiet look. "You've got gallstones, quite a few. We may need to remove the gallbladder." Richard blinked. "Remove it? You mean just take it out?" The doctor nodded. "It's not life-threatening right now, but if one of these stones moves, it could be." That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about surgery, anesthesia, recovery time. The idea of someone cutting into him. No, he didn't want that. He wanted to understand what led to this. He wanted to know what the hell bile even was. So he started digging, reading, watching, asking. And you know what shocked him? It wasn't just the fried food. It wasn't even about being overweight. It was the years of eating food that clogged up the bile, and never once feeding the organ that kept it flowing. Richard learned something nobody ever told him. Your gallbladder isn't just there. It works. Every single meal, every single day. But you have to help it work. Otherwise it slows down, thickens. And then, stones. pain, surgery. So Richard made a choice. He didn't go full rabbit food, didn't throw out his cast iron skillet, but he did start with one simple rule. Every plate must have something that moves bile. And slowly things started to change. That sharp pain? Gone. The bloating? Better. He even dropped a few pounds without trying. He went back to his doctor 6 months later. Scans looked better, no surgery. And Richard, he smiled when he told the nurse, "Turns out all I needed was to treat my gallbladder like it mattered." Because it does. And if you're watching this, if you've ever felt that heaviness, that tightness, that ugh feeling after eating, Richard's story is your warning. And your hope. Because what saved him wasn't a drug, wasn't a miracle. It was a handful of simple foods that made his bile flow like a clear, steady river. And that's exactly what you're going to hear next. Imagine a kitchen sink. You pour oil down the drain again and again, but you never run hot water. What happens? It builds up, thickens, turns sticky. Eventually it clogs, and then the whole system backs up. That's your gallbladder. Only instead of oil, it's bile, a golden bitter liquid your liver makes every day, about 800 to 1,000 milliliters of it. And the gallbladder? It's the reservoir, the pressure valve, the smart container that stores bile, concentrates it, and releases it when you eat. But here's the twist. Bile isn't just some random juice floating around. It's a detergent. It breaks down fats, emulsifies them. Without it, your body can't absorb vitamins A, D, E, or K. And worse, without it, fat-soluble toxins just stay. But bile has a personality. It needs to move. And when it doesn't, when it sits too long, gets too thick, or there's not enough of it, it begins to crystallize. Tiny grains at first, then stones, then pain. Now here's the kicker. You don't need to have gallstones to have a sluggish gallbladder. You can feel tired, heavy. You eat and feel full for hours, like food's just sitting there. Some people call it food hangover. But what it really is stuck bile. And you know what makes it worse? Low-fat diets. That's right. We were told for decades, avoid fat, go light, eat dry toast and boiled chicken. But guess what happens when you don't eat enough healthy fat? The gallbladder never gets the signal to squeeze. And when it doesn't squeeze, bile doesn't flow. And when it doesn't flow, it rots. You heard that right. Stagnant bile becomes thick, sticky, sludgy. The medical term? Biliary sludge. And it's the perfect breeding ground for stones. So let's zoom out. Your liver makes bile, your gallbladder stores it, and your food activates it. Think of bile like soap, and the gallbladder like a smart soap dispenser. But if the dispenser gets jammed, the soap turns to gunk, and the pipes back up. Now here's the hope. Bile can be thinned, flow can be restored, the whole system can flush again if you give it the right signals, not pills, not surgeries, but natural triggers, foods, habits, small changes that tell your body it's time to clean house. Coming up, I'll show you what those foods are, the ones that melt bile sludge, the ones that make your gallbladder breathe, and the one food you're probably eating every day that's secretly slowing everything down. Ready? Let's go. Richard started with something simple. Every morning, before coffee, before breakfast, he'd take half a lemon, squeeze it into warm water, and drink it slowly. Why? Because lemon juice, especially in warm water, wakes up the liver. It signals the body, time to detox. But more importantly, it nudges the gallbladder. Hey, get ready. Something's coming. That small, sour ritual helped bile move. Not violently, not suddenly, but steadily, like turning on a faucet. Now here's what's wild. Richard noticed his appetite felt different. He didn't feel heavy after meals, no more afternoon gas. His body just flowed. But one day he skipped it, just jumped to breakfast. And by noon, bloating. That tight, dull ache under his ribs. He knew right away what was missing. So now it's his non-negotiable. Lemon water before anything else. No sugar, no honey, no gimmicks. Just lemon, warm water, 5 minutes. One tiny habit that tells the bile, let's go. The second change? It wasn't easy at first, because bitter greens, they're not crowd pleasers. Arugula, dandelion, mustard greens, even just plain parsley. They're not comfort food, but they are bile movers. Bitter foods send a direct message to your liver. Make more bile, thin it, push it out. Richard learned this from a friend, an old Italian guy from the neighborhood. He'd been drinking dandelion tea every night for years. Good for the liver, he said, tapping his belly, and keeps the pipes clean. Richard thought it was nonsense, until he tried it. He started adding a handful of arugula to lunch, a few dandelion leaves in his soup, sometimes parsley with eggs, bitter at first, but then addictive, because within a week the difference was obvious. Less gas, better bathroom habits, that weird pressure after fatty meals, gone. The greens were doing what no antacid ever could. They weren't covering the problem. They were fixing the flow. Now, here's where it gets sneaky, because Richard almost messed up, big time. He thought eggs were healthy, high protein, right? He'd eat 2 or 3 in the morning, scrambled in butter, maybe a side of bacon. But he kept feeling tight afterward, a slow burning cramp, especially under the ribs. So he dug deeper. Turns out egg yolk, especially in large amounts, is one of the strongest gallbladder stimulants. And when your bile is already thick, that sudden squeeze from a heavy yolk load, it's like forcing a water balloon through a straw. One morning, after a 3-egg omelet, Richard had to lie down. Sharp pain, cold sweat. He thought it was another attack. That's when he switched things up. 1 egg with steamed spinach or avocado. Lighter breakfast, more fiber, less slam, and just like that, the cramps disappeared. So here's the rule. Eggs aren't bad, but when your bile's slow, yolks can overload the system, especially when paired with grease, toast, coffee, or all at once. Don't cut eggs forever, but be smart. Know the signals, because your body is talking. Right after breakfast, in the middle of your day, after dinner, you just have to listen and adjust. Take a breath, not a shallow one, deep. Let it fill your chest. Let it stretch your ribs. That's your body saying, I'm still here, I'm working, I haven't given up on you, not for a second. And you know what? You haven't given up either. You're here, watching this. You care. And that matters more than you think, because gallbladder problems don't come out of nowhere. They build, slowly, quietly. A missed signal here, a heavy meal there, a lifetime of habits that seemed harmless until they weren't. But that doesn't mean it's too late. Your body isn't mad at you. It's not punishing you. It's just asking for help, finally, clearly, honestly. And now you know how to give it. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to live on kale and lemon juice forever. But you can wake up tomorrow and make one small choice your gallbladder will thank you for. 1 bitter green. 1 gentle breakfast. 1 moment to pause before reaching for something greasy. Because this isn't about dieting, or fear, or punishment. It's about flow, energy, that lightness in your step you haven't felt in years. You can feel it again. Not because of a pill, not because of some magic cleanse, because you started treating your body like a friend. Not a problem to fix, but a partner to listen to. So tomorrow, when you pour that lemon water, when you toss a few greens on your plate, when you say no to that second slice of bacon, smile. You're not getting older, you're getting wiser. And your gallbladder? It's breathing easier already.